The city of Cape Town is on a drive to beef up safety and security for residents in the metro. People are battling escalating violent crime, and that includes, I should say, shootings, which we've covered here on Newzroom Afrika for much of this year. More than 30 people gunned down in areas such as Khayelitsha to date. Let's talk about this plan then with the Mayor of Cape Town, Geordin Hill-Lewis, who joins us from Cape Town. A very good afternoon to you, Mayor. Thank you so much for being with us. It's one thing to go on the crime stats that are released by the SAPS quarterly, but how would you, as Mayor of Cape Town, describe the safety situation in your metro?
I think particularly of people who live in informal settlements and areas where there's lots of gangs who primarily make use of public transport, who leave very early in the morning, who have to walk to a local bus stop, a My City bus stop, a taxi rank, and constantly have to deal with the threat of being robbed, having their personal possessions taken from them by gangsters and scollies who hang out on street corners and prey on innocent Cape Townians. So I think that people are genuinely very anxious about the fear of violent crime, and that they struggle to rest easy and to enjoy the freedom and all of the other benefits that the city offers because of the constant anxiety and fear of violent crime. I think about that all the time.
I'm looking at an address you gave today, and I'd like to just read part of it, where you say, we need to do more now, right now, to protect people from the gangs and violent criminals that steal, rape, and murder with absolute impunity. So what then are you going to do now?
This year alone, we're putting hundreds of millions of rands into crime-fighting technology. That's drones and manned aerial surveillance in the skies above our city 24 hours a day. We are giving dashboard cameras to all of our vehicles, body cameras to all of our offices. This year alone, we've budgeted for 230 new officers in the city of Cape Town, boots on the ground, and they will go to all of those worst crime-affected places. We have just welcomed the final 100 members of our LEAP deployment, taking our total deployment to 1,100. We are doing a specialist 24-hour highway patrol because lots of our violent crime incidents happen on our highways. So we are putting probably the biggest one-year investment into safety that the city of Cape Town has ever seen in its history since the formation. I need to go back and check all of our previous budgets, but I suspect it is one of the, if not the biggest investment we've ever made. So it's a huge investment. But the point that I was making today is that with more policing powers, we could really do a great deal more right now.
And that's where I want to go next, because it's one thing to have all of these numbers, people who you're going to deploy, among them volunteers, police officers, and auxiliaries as well. But how far does the training and power that they have then go when you consider that in parts of Khayelitsha, we've had teams where when they go out there to do live crossings at night would require an SAPS escort, for instance?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And in fact, even our service delivery teams, you'll be amazed that a team that is going to unblock a drain or fix an electricity connection, they themselves face robbery, even though they're going to help the community. And they don't go either until there's a SAPS escort or a law enforcement escort available. And so actually part of that investment we're doing this year is a team of 80, what we call a FPU, Facility Protection Unit, that is going to protect our frontline service delivery teams doing electricity, doing water, doing sewage, so that they don't have to wait hours for a SAPS escort. They can go immediately. So hopefully that will protect them from robbery, but also speed up basic service delivery in those township areas. So we are really trying to rack our brains for everything we can do. But one of the things, to come back to your primary question, is to say our officers at the moment basically do what we call crime prevention. But for what does that mean for you, a resident? It means that element of policing that is visible, that you see cars patrolling in your neighborhood, you see officers walking the streets. That's very important and helpful, don't get me wrong. And really, I think is a primary reason why we've seen some of the violent stats come down in those areas where we've made those deployments. But we could do more. We could do searches for weapons and drugs. We could do full criminal investigation to try and prepare the dockets to get actual convictions. Because one of the most terrible things in South Africa is when you do all of the work to catch a criminal on the street, hand them over to SAPS, the investigation is bungled, the case is withdrawn, and they are back on the streets just as quickly as you caught them. And that is very disheartening. So if we could do a whole lot more of that, preparing those cases for court, seeing them through to proper conviction, we could really make a difference.
And I want to locate further then on the issue of mandates, a conversation. Let's locate it there a bit further, because we have seen in the past when communities in the Western Cape say they feel as though they're not protected and are basically left as sitting ducks, lame ducks really, for murderers and rapists. There's always been the retort from the city and the province to say, well, the Ministry of Police needs to do more. So how does this then tie in with that issue where you've said it's the SAPS at that level that's failing the people in the Western Cape? Where does that leave us?
Yeah, that's absolutely... Sorry, were you done? I cut you off.
I was.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the primary mandate for crime prevention and crime control and investigation and prosecution rests with the SAPS. What we are doing is a kind of top-up service. We're trying to fill the gaps where we think an urgent difference needs to be made. But what we are saying is if we could have more of those full policing powers, then we could really be of much greater assistance to SAPS in getting meaningful convictions and getting criminals off our streets. And we could be much more effective in keeping Cape Townians safer. So it is about mandates. You're right to point to that. That is, the national level is where the mandate currently sits. We do a kind of top-up service. But what we are asking for is give us more of that mandate, and we will show you what a difference we can make.
And do you think you'll get it? Because it's not a new call, but it's still not been granted.
It's getting harder and harder to argue against it, to be honest. You know, SAPS is an organization that is respectfully in free fall. And I always hesitate before I say that because I've worked with so many excellent SAPS officers here in Cape Town on the ground. They are dedicated professionals, just like there are so many dedicated teachers and nurses in South Africa, but they are working in a system that is fundamentally broken. That organization, SAPS, is broken. It has got a shocking national leadership and political leadership. It has got no money. Its budgets are being starved. It is badly equipped. It doesn't have any of the technology that even we have here in our Metro Police and law enforcement. We are technologically light years ahead of the SAPS. So we are saying we want to support those excellent, hard-working officers that remain in the SAPS and make them more effective by giving us more of that mandate and more of that power. And it is entirely possible within Minister Bheki Cele's current constitutional powers to do it. And if he says no, because we see the evidence of what's happening in SAPS, it becomes a harder and harder case to defend rationally and legally.
Mayor Geordin Hill-Lewis, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, sir.